I never thought revenge would taste like the bitter almond of my sister's wedding cake. But there I was, standing in the shadows of the grand ballroom at the Four Seasons in Boston, watching them toast to a future built on my bones. They had left my seat empty, deliberately, cruelly, as if erasing the last trace of a sister who had carried their sins like a scarlet letter sewn into her skin. But I wasn't Serenity anymore. Not in the body they knew. I was a ghost in stolen flesh. And with one whispered truth into the microphone, I turned their fairy tale into a funeral dirge. It started 3 years ago, in the sterile hum of a private clinic on the outskirts of Silicon Valley, where the elite go to cheat death and swap souls like trading stocks. My fiancé, Dr. Elias Hawthorne, charming on the surface, a viper in the boardroom, had promised me eternity. Instead, he gave me oblivion. We were the golden couple of San Francisco's tech elite. Me, Serenity Voss, the wide-eyed journalist who exposed corporate greed for a living, and him, the wunderkind neurosurgeon pioneering neural mapping tech that could realign essences. It sounded like science fiction, but in America's cutthroat innovation race, it was just another Tuesday. Elias's company, Neuralink, was on the cusp of FDA approval for therapeutic body swaps. Think quadriplegics walking in donor bodies, or the terminally ill extending their lease on life. But whispers in the dark hinted at darker applications, identity laundering for the ultra-rich, swapping wrinkled shells for youthful vessels. No questions asked. I trusted him. God, how I trusted him. We were engaged, rings glinting under the Golden Gate fog, planning a life where I'd trade my byline for a quiet home in the hills. But Elias had debts, massive ones, to my own family. The Voss empire, built on Voss Pharmaceuticals, wasn't just pills and potions. It was a shadow network peddling experimental opioids that hooked half of Middle America and buried the overdoses in unmarked graves. My father, Harlan Voss, the silver-haired patriarch with a smile like a loaded gun, had bailed Elias out of a malpractice suit 2 years prior. The price? Silence on Neuralink's off-books trials. I stumbled onto it by accident. Late one night, digging for a story on Big Pharma's ties to tech, I hacked into Elias's secure drive, old habits from my investigative days. What I found wasn't just emails. It was blueprints for a heist on humanity itself. Neuralink wasn't healing the broken. It was enabling the powerful to discard their consequences. And the crown jewel? A swap protocol tested on unwilling subjects, their minds mapped and overwritten like faulty code. The first victim was Marcus Hale, a whistleblower who'd threatened to expose Voss Pharma's dirty trials. They didn't kill him, no. That would draw too much heat. Instead, they mapped his consciousness into a vegetative patient's body in a state-run facility, trapping his mind in a prison of flesh that couldn't speak or move. His original body? Donated to a benefactor, Harlan Voss himself, who at 68 was starting to feel the weight of his empire's sins in his arthritic knees and fading drive. But they needed a scapegoat for the cover-up. Someone close enough to sell the lie, disposable enough to disappear. Me. Elias lured me to the clinic under the guise of a pre-wedding wellness scan. Champagne flutes clinked as he kissed my temple, murmuring about our future. The room was all soft lights and leather recliners, the air thick with the scent of eucalyptus and false promises. Just a baseline neural print. Baby, he said, his fingers lingering on the 4 line. For when we start our family, I woke up screaming, but not in my voice. My body, lithe, unscarred, the one I'd honed with yoga in Golden Gate Park and late-night runs along the Embarcadero, was gone. In its place was a husk, a 52-year-old woman's frame, heavy with the toll of factory shifts and cheap takeout, skin mottled from years under fluorescent lights in a Detroit assembly line. Her name had been Carla Ruiz, a single mom who'd OD'd on Voss Pharma's latest miracle painkiller. Her body harvested for parts before the ink dried on her death certificate. They'd swapped us. My mind, Serenity Voss, 29, fierce and unbroken, trapped in Carla's corpse-like shell. And Carla, whatever spark of her they'd captured, was overwritten, erased like a glitch in the system. I was her now, to the world a nobody, a statistic in the opioid crisis they pinned on user error. The betrayal hit like a freight train. My own father, Harlan, had greenlit it, his signature on the consent form forged in my looping script. My sister, Lydia, the golden child with her MBA from Harvard and her engagement to a senator's son, had held my hand during the procedure, whispering lies about how this was for the family. Elias? He got the promotion, the funding, and my body fresh, fertile, untainted, as his new bride-to-be. They framed it as my suicide. Serenity Voss, the crusading reporter, overwhelmed by the pressures of exposing her own family's sins, had taken a cocktail of pills and jumped from the clinic's roof. The headlines screamed tragedy. Tech heiress ends it all amid pharma scandal. My bylines vanished. My apartment was scrubbed clean. Carla Ruiz's life? A dead end in a subsidized apartment in Oakland. Social Security checks barely covering the rent. A daughter named Mia who'd already aged out and goes to her. I clawed my way back from the abyss. First, survival, forging Carla's ID, scraping by on odd jobs, waitressing at dive bars where the tips smelled like regret, night shifts at a warehouse where the conveyor belts drowned out the screams in my head. But rage is a hell of a motivator. I studied the shadows of the dark web, pieced together Neuralink's underbelly from leaked forums and burner phones. Turns out, the swaps weren't flawless. Backdoors existed for the desperate. A rogue coder, burned by the company, sold me the neural disruptor code, a virus to reverse the mapping, if I could get close enough. For 3 years, I was a phantom. I watched from afar as Lydia's wedding to Senator Preston Hale, Marcus's own son, irony's cruelest joke, dominated the society pages. Preston, oblivious or complicit, the rising star of Massachusetts politics, tying the knot to seal the Voss legacy. Harlan's empire swelled. Elias climbed the ranks. His face, my face, plastered on TED Talks about the future of self. They left my seat empty at the rehearsal dinner, a pointed void between the bridal party and the groomsmen. Lydia's toast skimmed over me. To family, the ones who stay. Laughter rippled like breaking glass. That's when I knew the revenge wouldn't wait for dawn. But dawn never came the way I planned. As I slipped into the Four Seasons that crisp October night, the air electric with autumn chill off the Charles River, I felt the weight of Carla's bones protesting every step. The dress I'd scavenged from a thrift store in Dorchester clung like a second skin, black silk, too tight across the hips, but it hid the tremor in my hands. The neural disruptor, a sleek fob disguised as a vintage brooch, hummed against my chest, synced to my stolen laptop back in the motel. The ballroom was a monument to excess, crystal chandeliers dripping like frozen tears, tables groaning under towers of orchids flown in from Thailand, waiters in crisp tuxes gliding like sharks. 300 guests, senators, CEOs, the kind of people who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Davos, clinked glasses to the string quartet's rendition of Canon in D. Lydia, radiant in ivory lace that cost more than my old apartment, clung to Preston's arm, her laughter a silver bell that masked the rot beneath. I lingered at the edges, a ghost in Carla's faded curves, nursing a pilfered flute of Veuve Clicquot. No one noticed. Why would they? The Vosses had buried Serenity deep, and Carla Ruiz was just another face in the service staff. But I saw them all, Harlan at the head table, his borrowed vigor belying the fear in his eyes, the way he gripped his cane like a scepter. Elias, God, seeing my own face twisted into a smug grin, whispering to Lydia, their hands intertwined under the table, a mockery of the vows they were about to take. The hook of the night was the father-daughter dance. As the lights dimmed and Nat King Cole's Unforgettable swelled, Harlan pulled Lydia close, their silhouettes merging in the spotlight. To my girls, he murmured into the mic, voice gravelly, with rehearsed emotion. Serenity may be gone, but she's watching over us. A collective sigh. Tissues dabbed at artful tears. Lies. All of it. Serenity wasn't watching. She was here.
Seething.
That's when I moved. Slipping past the velvet ropes, I ascended the dais like a specter, the brooch warm against my skin. The quartet faltered as I seized the microphone, feedback screeching like a banshee. Watching, I rasped, Carla's voice rough from disuse and despair, but laced with Serenity's fire. Try haunting. 300 heads snapped toward me. Gasps rippled outward, champagne spilling like blood from tilted flutes. Lydia's face drained of color, her bouquet slipping to the floor. Who the hell are you? Preston barked, his senator polish cracking. I smiled, slow and savage, the kind of grin that splits open old wounds. I'm the sister you erased. The one who carried your crimes because you were too cowardly to confess. Serenity Voss, back from the dead to collect what's mine. Chaos erupted, but I held the floor, the mic my gavel. 3 years ago, in a Neuralink lab funded by Voss Pharma, they didn't kill me. They stole me. Swapped my mind into this body, Carla Ruiz, one of your opioid casualties. Harlan. A mother you let die for a quarterly profit bump. Elias here. I pointed, and my old face recoiled, mapped my essence and overrode it into her shell, while he paraded around in mine, wetting it off to my own blood. Murmurs swelled to a roar. Phones emerged, cameras flashing like accusatory eyes. Harlan lurched forward, his borrowed legs unsteady. Security. This woman's deranged. Deranged? I laughed, the sound echoing off the gilded walls. Ask your doctor boyfriend how the backdoor code works. Or better yet, let's demonstrate. With a flick, I activated the disruptor. The brooch pulsed, invisible waves cascading through the room's hidden neural amplifiers, Elias's tech, embedded in the chandeliers for immersive ambience. Elias, in my body, clutched his temples, crumpling to his knees as the feedback loop hit. Lydia screamed, doubling over, her perfect poise shattering. Harlan staggered, the patriarch's facade cracking as phantom pains from his original body resurfaced, arthritis flaring like Judgment Day. The room froze, a tableau of frozen privilege. This is for Marcus Hale, whose mind rots in a coma ward because he dared speak truth. For Carla, whose daughter Mia I tracked down last month, she knows now. And she's coming for Voss stock. For every junkie you labeled weak while pocketing billions. Preston lunged, but I sidestepped, the mic cord whipping like a lash. And you, Senator-to-be? Your father didn't suicide. He's trapped in a shell because your in-laws needed a clean slate. Ring any bells? The quartet had long since fled. The string section lay abandoned, bows scattered like fallen soldiers. Guests bolted for exits. A stampede of Louboutins and tuxedos. But the doors, cleverly jammed by my pre-hack, held firm. Sirens wailed in the distance. Boston PD en route. But not before I dropped the final bomb. Turning to Lydia, tears carving tracks through her makeup, I leaned in close. You held my hand, sis. Whispered it was Mercy. But Mercy doesn't wear a 6-carat rock or fuck the family doctor in the bridal suite. Her slap landed, but it was hollow. Carla's thicker skin absorbing the sting. You're a monster, she hissed. No, I whispered back. For her ears only. I'm the mirror you smashed. As cuffs clicked around my wrists, Carla's wrists, I was dragged away. The ballroom a wreckage of toppled chairs and shattered illusions. But in that moment, as flashbulbs popped and headlines birthed themselves, I tasted victory, not sweet, but sharp, like the edge of a blade finally drawn. Little did I know, the real twist was just uncoiling. The holding cell at Suffolk County smelled like stale coffee and regret, the kind that seeps into cinderblock walls and never washes out. Fluorescent buzz overhead matched the throb in my temples, residual from the disruptor's echo. Or maybe just the come-down from 3 years of bottled fury. I sat on the bench. Carla's calloused hands clasped between knees that ached from standing too long in cheap heels, replaying the wedding's collapse like a director's cut in my mind. They'd separated me quick, Boston's finest. Ever efficient for high-profile dust-ups. Bundling me into the back of a cruiser while the Voss machine spun its web. Disturbed caterer, the initial tweet from Lydia's PR firm read. Already viral by the time the cell door clanged shut. Voss wedding hoopsie. With memes of overturned chairs and my unhinged rant. But the videos, grainy iPhone captures of Elias writhing, Harlan collapsing, were multiplying faster than denials. Mia Ruiz showed up at dawn. Her face a younger echo of Carla's, sharp cheekbones softened by grief. Dark eyes hollowed by loss. I'd contacted her months ago, piecing together the fragments of her mother's life from pawned jewelry and faded photos in a lockbox. She wasn't a junkie. I'd told her over encrypted calls from a library computer. They killed her essence to hide their sins. Mia, 22 now, barista by day and community college by night, had listened with the quiet fury of someone who'd buried a parent without closure. She slid a care package through the bars, protein bar, bottled water, a burner phone with one number programmed, a pro bono lawyer from the Innocence Project, tipped off by my anonymous leaks. You did it for Mom, she said, voice steady, but fingers trembling on the metal. Now let me do it for you. Gratitude twisted in my gut, unfamiliar after years of solitude. Serenity, I corrected softly. Carla's body, but my fight. She nodded, slipping away as the guard barked shift change. Alone again, I powered on the burner. The screen's glow a lifeline. Messages flooded, leaks from Neuralink insiders, forwarded by the dark web contact who'd sold me the code. It's breaking, one read. Feds raiding the clinic. Your vids at 2M views. But victory's high was fleeting, doubt crept in like fog off the harbor. What if they pinned it all on Carla, the OD mom cracking under phantom guilt? Voss lawyers were sharks. They'd devour her history, paint me as delusional. And Lydia, my sister, blood of my blood, who'd sobbed in my arms after Mom's cancer took her when we were kids. Was the betrayal total? Or just survival in Harlan's shadow? Interrogation came at noon. 2 suits from the DA's office, Detective Reyes, a no-nonsense Latina with a badge polished to a sheen, and her partner, Kowalski, built like a linebacker who'd seen too many Southie brawls. They slid into metal chairs across the table, folders thick as Bibles. MS. Ruiz, Reyes started, flipping open the top file, Carla's mugshot from a '22 shoplifting beef. Desperate for formula when Mia was teething. Care to explain crashing a $2 mill wedding with conspiracy theories? I leaned forward, meeting her gaze. Not theories. Facts. Check the neural logs from Neuralink. Timestamped October 17th, 2022. Serenity Voss's print. Overlaid on Carla Ruiz's postmortem scan. Consent forms a forgery. Ink analysis will show it. Kowalski snorted, tapping a printout of my Serenity's obit. Lady, you're grieving. I get it. Lost your kid to the streets. Now projecting onto some heiress sob story. But trespassing? Assault. Assault. I barked a laugh. I flipped a mic stand. They collapsed from their own guilt. Reyes's eyes narrowed, the cop's instinct pinging. You talk like you've got inside dope. How to factory drone hack a black site server. Journalism degree from community college. I lied smooth, channeling Serenity's old cadence. And a grudge that reads like a thriller. They grilled me for hours. Timelines, alibis, the disruptor's origin. I gave them breadcrumbs, enough to subpoena, not enough to bury. By dusk, bail was posted. Anonymous wire from Mia's GoFundMe surge. The internet's with you, she texted as I stepped into the chill dusk. Justice for Serenity trending. The motel off Route 1 was a step up from Oakland Dives. Threadbare quilt. HBO on demand. A view of the Mystic River where freighters ghosted like forgotten dreams. I collapsed onto the bed, body aching, mind racing. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of the swap room. Elias's scalpel glint. Lydia's whispered, "It's for the best," morphing into the wedding's roar. Morning brought the call. The lawyer, Elena Vasquez. Voice like tempered steel. Feds are involved. Neuralink CEO, your ex, is lawyered up, but the raid turned up gold, encrypted drives with swap manifests. You're not just a witness, you're the goddamn key. Relief warred with paranoia. As I paced the room, CNN droned on the TV, pundits dissecting the Voss wedding meltdown. Clips looped my rant. The collapses, framed as performance art or psyop. Harlan's statement, a tragic misunderstanding by a troubled individual. Elias, pale in Serenity's skin. No comment. But Lydia. A leaked photo showed her at the ER, for drip and haunted eyes. Part of me, the sister who braided her hair during Dad's rages, ached. The rest plotted. I needed proof, irrefutable, to flip the script. The family compound in the Berkshires was the vault, Harlan's private study, where he kept the originals. Blueprints, ledgers, the forged consent stamped with Voss Pharma's eagle seal. Getting in meant going dark, leveraging the chaos. That night, under a waxing moon, I hotwired a beater from the motel lot, skills picked up from warehouse heists, and gunned it west on the Mass Pike. The road unspooled like a vein, pulsing with truckers' CB chatter and my own accelerating pulse. Billboards for prep schools and craft breweries blurred past, emblems of the America that chews up dreamers and spits out husks. The Voss estate loomed at midnight, 200 acres of manicured pines and stone walls, floodlights sweeping like prison search beams. I parked a mile out, trekking through underbrush that clawed at Carla's nylons. The service gate, code from old family barbecues. 0923 for Mom's birthday. Clicked open. Inside. The house was a tomb, marble halls echoing with absence, portraits of Voss ancestors glowering from oil paint frames. I moved like smoke, avoiding motion sensors, heart hammering as I crested the stairs to Harlan's wing. The study door yielded to a bobby pin and prayer. Moonlight slanted through French doors, illuminating the safe, a biometric beast keyed to his, Marcus's, print. But I had a workaround. The disruptor's secondary mode. A low-frequency jammer swiped from a Radio Shack knockoff. It whirred to life. The lock beeping surrender. Inside. Files. Fat and damning. The swap manifest. My neural map timestamped. Carla's overwritten. Emails between Elias and Harlan. Serenity's volatility makes her perfect for containment. Lydia's addendum. She'll understand. Family first. Tears burned. Hot and traitorous. I snapped photos on the burner. Zipped the originals into a backpack. But as I sealed the safe, footsteps echoed, soft, hesitant. Lydia. She stood in the doorway. Silk robe belted tight. Hair a mess from nightmare-tossed sleep. Carla?
Or
Whoever you are now. Serenity. I growled. Brooch in hand like a talisman. Say it. Her lip quivered. The Harvard polish peeling. Serenity. God. I thought we'd lost you forever. Lost me? You buried me. I advanced. Files clutched like weapons. For what? To keep Dad's empire afloat? Elias's ego? She sank into an armchair, the weight of secrets bowing her shoulders. It wasn't like that. Not at first.
Dad.
He was dying. Liver from the stress. The deals. Neuralink was his Hail Mary, youth in Marcus's body. Enough time to clean the books before the SEC sniffed around. And I was the loose end. Bitterness coated my tongue. You were digging too deep. The story on our opioids, it would have tanked everything. Elias said the swap was temporary. A neural timeout until you cooled.
But then
Carla's body glitched. The mapping stuck. Lies. I flung the manifest at her feet. You signed off. Held my hand. Tears spilled. I did. And every night since, I pray for absolution. The wedding. It was supposed to be closure. For all of us. Closure. The word hung. Absurd in the moonlit ruin. Part of me wanted to throttle her. To make her feel the cage of Carla's lungs constricting. But another, the sister who'd shared secrets under covers during thunderstorms, wavered. Help me end it, I said finally. Testify. Bring them down. She looked up, eyes gleaming with something dangerous, resolve or ruse. Tomorrow. At the press conference. I'll stand with you. We hugged then, awkward in Carla's bulkier frame, her slenderness fragile against me. As she slipped away, whispering, I love you, doubt not. Trust was a luxury I'd long ago pawned. Dawn found me on the road back to Boston, files burning a hole in the dash. The presser was set, Voss family addressing the incident, Elena Vasquez leaking my evidence to the Times. But as traffic thickened near the city, my burner buzzed, a text from an unknown. She's playing you. Run. The twist uncoiled. The Mass Pike bottlenecked into a snarl of brake lights and honking sedans. The skyline of Boston rising like a jagged accusation against the slate-gray sky. Rain slicked the windshield, wipers slapping a frantic rhythm that matched the storm in my chest. Lydia's hug lingered like a phantom limb, warm.
Deceptive.
The text burned on the screen. She's playing you.
Run.
No sender. Just coordinates to a coffee shop in Cambridge. MIT turf, where hackers nurse lattes and grudges. I veered off at the Alston exit, pulse thundering louder than the downpour. The diner was a greasy spoon relic. Formica counters scarred from decades of blue-collar breakfasts. The kind of place where truckers and adjunct profs swapped conspiracy theories over eggs over easy. I slid into a booth, hood up against Carla's frizzing hair, ordering black coffee to blend. He arrived 10 minutes later, mid-30s. Wire-rimmed glasses. Hoodie emblazoned with a faded EFF logo. Theo Grant. The rogue coder who'd sold me the disruptor code. Face gaunt from too many all-nighters and not enough sunlight. He dropped opposite me, scanning the room like a spook before sliding a thumb drive across the table. You look like hell, he said. Voice low, laced with that valley accent that never quite shakes the Berkeley undergrad drawl. Feel like it. I pocketed the drive.
Spill.
Why warn me about Lydia? Theo stirred sugar into his mug. 3 packets. Methodical. Because she's Voss to the core. Charming.
Yeah.
But calculate every angle like it's a merger. Last night, I hacked the estate's cams, saw the whole tearjerker. She's already lawyered up separate from Harlan. Floating a deal. Immunity for flipping on Elias. My stomach nodded. And me. Bait. She tips the feds you're unstable. PTSD from the suicide attempt they planted in your file. You testify wild. They discredit the swaps as delusion. Voss Empire walks with a slap. Betrayal's second wave hit harder, laced with the poison of familiarity. Lydia. My shadow growing up, sharing clothes, crushes, the burden of Harlan's expectations. She'd always been the diplomat, smoothing Dad's tempers, while I swung the axe. But this? Selling me out twice. Proof. I demanded, voice steady through the quake. Theo tapped the drive. Her emails to the DA? Timestamped 3 a.m. And a bonus, the full swap archive. Not just yours, dozens. Politicians, execs, even a couple celebs trading up. Enough to torch the whole network. I nodded, mind already mapping the countermove. Pressers at noon. Fenway Pavilion. You in? His grin was feral. For the takedown? Hell yes. But we do it clean, no more wedding theatrics. Live stream. Irrefutable docs. Let the court of public opinion gut them first. We plotted over Cooling Joe. I'd crash the podium with Elena's blessing. Flash the drive on a projector-eyed rig from a Best Buy dashcam. Theo'd handle the feed, bouncing it through Tor to CNN. Fox. The works. Mia would flank me. The human face of Voss's victims, her testimony on Carla's suicide note. Forged in the same clinic. Driving to the pavilion. Fenway's green monster looming in the drizzle. I felt the shift, from Avenger to Architect. Carla's hands gripped the wheel. Steady now. Veins mapping a life I'd adopted as armor. Serenity's fire burned brighter, tempered by the forge of loss. The pavilion buzzed, press gaggle under tents. Satellite trucks idling like beasts. Voss contingent front and center. Harlan frail in a wheelchair. Elias stone-faced in a suit that hung loose on my old frame. Lydia poised in pearl gray. Microphone poised like a scepter. Elena met me at the perimeter. Rain dripping from her umbrella. You're late, she clipped, but her eyes sparked approval. Ready to rewrite history? More like exhume it. I handed her the drive. Lydia's double cross included. Her brow arched. Knew she was slippery. We'll pivot. Make her the villain. Noon struck. The podium creaked under Harlan's approach.
His voice amplified.
Reedy, but commanding. Thank you for coming. Last night's events were a painful reminder of mental health's toll. I surged forward then.
Mia Masul.
Theo's signal light in my earpiece. Feed live in 3.2. Reminder? I snatched the mic from a stunned aide. Voice booming across the wet lawn. Try cover up. Harlan Voss didn't just peddle pills. He peddled people. Cameras swiveled. A forest of lenses drinking me in. Lydia's face crumpled, shock or performance. Elias bolted upright. But security held. The crowd's murmur swelling to a wave. I'm Serenity Voss, I declared, clicking the projector live. The screen bloomed. Manifests. Emails. Neural scans glowing like X-rays of the soul. Swapped into Carla Ruiz's body to silence my reporting on your crimes. And this, zoom on Lydia's betrayal thread, is how my sister planned to bury me again. Gasps. Shouts. Reporters surged the barriers. Harlan wheezed denials. But the evidence scrolled inexorable. Victim names. Swap dates. Dollar signs in the margins. Mia stepped up. Voice breaking but clear. My mom didn't choose death. They chose it for her. The feed went nuclear, Theo's whisper confirming hits on every major outlet. Twitter, X, whatever, exploded. Body swap scandal. Voss unmasked. Preston Hale, MIA at the podium, would face his own reckoning with Marcus's ghost. But as feds swarmed the stage, cuffing Elias mid-protest, Lydia locked eyes with me across the chaos. No tears now, just a nod.
Subtle.
Almost approving. Wait, what? Theo's voice crackled. Incoming, anonymous drop. Check your secure. On the burner. A video file. Lydia's face filling the screen. If you're seeing this, I did it right. The double cross? Misdirection. Harlan and Elias think I'm flipping. It'll get me inside the safe house tonight. Destroying the backups. For you,
Sis.
for Mom. Love always. The twist reversed, not reversal. Revelation. She'd played them. Not me. Risked everything on a Hail Mary of her own. Relief flooded. Chased by terror. The feds dragged Harlan away. His empire crumbling in real time. Elias, in my body, screamed epithets as they zip-tied his wrists. But Lydia vanished in the scrum, a ghost on her own mission. Night fell heavy, the city pulsing with aftershocks. Elena drove me to a safe house in Jamaica Plain. Brownstones huddled against the storm. You're free, she said, handing keys. Or, as free as this mess allows. Trials ahead, but the truth's out.
Free.
The word tasted foreign. I wandered the empty living room. Carla's reflection in the window, older, weathered, but eyes alight with Serenity's spark. Mia called. We did it. For her. But as I powered down, another ping, Theo. Lydia's signal dropped. Safe house raid went south, shots fired. The real storm broke then. Thunder rattling pains like judgment. I'd won the war. But the cost? My sister. Perhaps. The last tether to the girl I was. Or maybe not. Dawn would tell. The safe house in Jamaica Plain was a borrowed brownstone. The kind with creaky oak floors and bay windows that framed the pre-dawn hush of Boston's working-class heart. Rain had eased to a drizzle. Streetlights pooling gold on wet sidewalks where early dog walkers stirred. I hadn't slept, couldn't. With Theo's text looping in my skull, Lydia's signal dropped. Safe house raid went south, shots fired. Elena's contacts had gone dark after midnight. The feds op on Harlan's panic room in Back Bay shrouded in radio silence. I'd paced the living room, Carla's feet thudding against Persian rugs that smelled of pipe tobacco and old money. Ironic, given the provenance. The TV flickered muted. Cable news marathons on the Neuralink nightmare. My face, Carla's, splashed alongside Serenity's headshot. A split-screen requiem. By 5 a.m., the burner buzzed. Elena.
She's alive.
Banged up, shoulder graze, but in custody. Voluntary surrender. Backups torched. Elias's server farm is ash. Relief hit like morphine, dulling the edges of exhaustion. And the rest. Harlan singing like a canary, names. Dates. The works. Preston Hales resigning his candidacy by noon. Your ex? Facing federal kidnapping charges. Minimum. I sank onto the couch, the weight of 3 years sloughing off like dead skin. Lydia? Charges pending. But with her testimony, reduced to accessory. Maybe probation. She's asking for you. The drive to the federal holding facility in South Boston was a blur of one-way streets and salt-rusted bridges over the Fort Point Channel. Carla's body protested the twisty route, stiff neck from motel beds. A twinge in the hip from warehouse pallets, but adrenaline overrode it all. The facility loomed, brutalist concrete, chain link topped with razor wire. The American dream's underbelly. They let me into a visitation room. Sterile as a morgue, scuffed table, bolted chairs. A guard's shadow through the one-way glass. Lydia shuffled in. Orange jumpsuit swallowing her frame. Left arm in a sling. Bruises bloomed purple under her right eye. But her gaze, Voss steel, held steady. Sis, she breathed, reaching across the table. Our fingers met, hers cool and trembling, mine rough with Carla's calluses. You idiot, I whispered, tears pricking despite the rage's embers. Shots fired? For files we already had. She winced, a half-smile cracking her lip. Had to be sure. Elias had a dead man switch, remote wipes if he lawyered up. I stalled him. Got the admin codes. Then the feds kicked in. Clean hit. Mostly. I traced the sling's edge. Why not tell me? Trust issues run deep. Ha! Her laugh was brittle. After what we did. I figured you'd bolt if I looped you in. Better you lead the charge. Authentic rage, and all. Authentic. The word hung, unpacking layers of our shared sins. Growing up, Voss, Dad's boardroom bellows echoing through the Beacon Hill townhouse. Mom's morphine haze in the master suite. Lydia and I huddled in the attic playroom, whispering escape plans over contraband comics. I'd been the rebel. Pen as sword, she'd been the shield, absorbing Harlan's disappointments to spare me the brunt. But the swap had shattered that. You signed the form, I said, voice low. Knew it was forever. Her eyes dropped. I thought it was a bluff. Elias swore neural echoes, your mind fading into Carla's. Like a dream you wake from. When it didn't. I pushed the suicide narrative to buy time. Dig for a reversal. But Dad caught wind. Tightened the leash. Time for what? Your wedding. Bitterness seeped in, unbidden. She met my stare, unflinching. Cover. Get close to Preston. Leverage his pull for a congressional probe. Irony.
Right?
Marcus Hale's son. Unwitting pawn in exposing his old man. The pieces slotted. Her Harvard network. The senator's son courtship. A long con wrapped in tulle and vows. You played me too.
Guilty.
She squeezed my hand. But I never stopped fighting. Every society luncheon. Every gala, I fed tips to your old editor anonymously. The pharma leaks that got you digging? Mine. Revelation stacked on revelation. The truth inverting like a Mobius strip. Not just betrayal, but a labyrinth of loyalties. Each twist a deeper cut. I pulled back, the guard shifting uneasily. What now? Trials. Truth and reconciliation. American style, Senate hearings, Netflix docuseries. Her grin flickered.
And you?
Serenity Voss. Body and soul. Reversal's viable now. The coders are lining up. I glanced down at Carla's hands, veins like rivers on a map I'd learned to navigate. Mia's face flashed, her hug at the motel. Fierce and filial. Maybe. Or maybe this shell's home now. Taught me resilience Dad's billions never could. The buzzer sounded, time up. As she stood, Lydia leaned in. Whatever you choose. I'm here. No more empties at the table. I watched her go. Orange fading to shadow.
Outside.
The harbor wind whipped salt and freedom. Mia waited in the lot. Her beat-up Civic idling. Lawyer says we sue for wrongful death. Carla's estate.
Million.
Maybe. We drove in silence at first. The city unfolding. Faneuil Hall's bustle. The Freedom Trail's ironic path. What do you want, Mia? I asked finally. She shrugged. Eyes on the road.
Justice.
And maybe college without debt. You? Revenge, I said. But the kind that builds. A foundation, not a grave. The reversal consult was scheduled for week's end. At a legit Neuralink offshoot in Cambridge, irony's gift. Tech redeemed for healing. Theo met us there. Laptop under arm. His hacker grin intact. Full map recovery possible. 80% success rate. You'll be you again, serenity in serenity. I nodded. But as the anesthesiologist prepped the four, Carla's life reel played. The Oakland market spice haze. Mia's graduation I'd crashed from the bleachers. The quiet power in a body that had birthed worlds. Wait, I told them. Tube poised. Not yet. Postponed. They called it. I called it rebirth. Months blurred. Hearings in D.C., where senators postured over swap ethics. Harlan's confessions unraveling empires like threadbare suits. Elias flipped next, trading testimony for a plea, life in Supermax. My body slated for repatriation post-trial. Preston? Disgraced. But the Hales rallied. Marcus's mind, extracted from limbo, awaited a fresh vessel. Poetic, if justice could be. Lydia walked free on a deferred sentence. Community service in victim advocacy ironic penance. We met Sundays at a dive in the North End. Cannoli and confessions over espresso. Think they'll invite us to the next wedding? She joked once. Ringless hand stirring sugar. Only if we bring the empty chair. Laughter came easier now. A bridge over the chasm. But the real climax brewed in quiet moments. Mia's acceptance to Berkeley. Funded by Voss reparations. My byline returning. Not as crusader but chronicler. Life after swap. One woman's odyssey. Controversial. Sure. Op-eds decried me as Frankenstein's monster. Ethics boards debated the humanity of it all. Was I serenity? Or a mosaic? Did reversal erase Carla? Or honor her? The debate raged. As it should, America's pastime, arguing the soul's fine print. One autumn eve, as leaves scorched the common red, I stood at the clinic threshold again. Not for reversal, but release, signing over Carla's body to a trust. Neural anchors intact. Let her essence echo, I told the docs. In me.
In Mia.
Theo drove me home, to the hills outside SF. A modest ranch with a view of the bay. Bought clean with book advances. Ending happy, he asked. Engine rumbling. Debated over beers. I smiled. The wind tousling hair that was neither fully mine nor hers. But twists, as Harlan taught, never fully uncoil. That night, a knock, envelope, no return. Inside, a photo, yellowed, from Mom's attic, us girls, toddlers in sundresses, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Scribbled back, to the sister who filled the empty. Always yours.
Elle.
Tears fell, hot on the print. Happy? Tragic? The line blurred, as it does in the American dark. The hall had silenced once.
Now.
It echoed with possibility. Epilogues are for tidy bows. But life's a frayed hem, threads pulling loose long after the seamstress packs up. 6 months post-hearings. The Voss scandal had metastasized into a cultural quake. Congressional bills on neural integrity, Hollywood bidding wars for the rights. I nixed the Jennifer Lawrence pitch, too glossy for our grit. And therapy sessions where I unpacked the swap's psychic shrapnel with a shrink who quoted Jung over Java. Carla's body had settled into mine like a well-worn glove. Aches familiar now. Strength earned through PT and spite. Mia and I road-tripped the Pacific Coast Highway that spring. Her behind the wheel of a used Jeep. Windows down to the salt spray and Springsteen blaring from crackly speakers. This is living, she yelled over Born to Run, her laugh free of the shadows that had haunted our first meetings. We stopped in Big Sur, hiking trails where redwoods clawed the sky. Ancient sentinels indifferent to human follies. At a clifftop overlook, waves crashing 500 feet below like nature's own fury. She turned to me. You ever miss her? The old you. Serenity. I leaned on a rail, wind whipping my scarf. Every day. The energy.
The ease.
But this. I flexed a hand. Scars from factory presses faint silver. This taught me weight. Purpose beyond privilege. She nodded, eyes on the horizon. Mom would have liked you.
Tough.
But kind. Kindness, the word chafed, after years of venom. But Mia's trust had sanded the edges, her graduation that June. Cap tassel swinging as she crossed the Berkeley stage. Was my first real taste of unpoisoned joy. I sat front row, Lydia beside me on work release. Her advocacy gig channeling Voss guilt into grief groups for opioid orphans. The family table at the post-ceremony dim sum in SF's Chinatown was a fragile truce, Mia devouring Xiao Long Bao, Lydia picking at Hargao, me bridging with stories of Carla's hidden recipes, tacos al pastor from her Michoacan roots, passed down oral like
Contraband lore.
To new chapters, Lydia toasted.
Glace clinking tentative.
But chapters loop, don't they? Harlan's trial loomed in federal court. Philly docket, neutral ground. Away from Boston biases. I testified second day. The wood-paneled courtroom, a pressure cooker of suits and stares. Harlan, shrunken in his original body, repatriated post Elias's plea. Wheeled in by marshals. His eyes, once predatory, dull with defeat. Your Honor, I began. Voice steady under the judge's gavel gaze. Harlan Voss didn't just defraud investors or endanger lives. He commodified souls. My swap was an anomaly. It was prototype for an aristocracy unbound by flesh. Exhibits flashed, the drive's horrors, senators in starlit bodies. CEOs shedding age like snakeskin. Harlan's cross-exam was a wheeze of denials, corporate R&D, pioneering. But the manifests damned him. Signatures in his looping scrawl. Lydia took the stand after lunch. Her sling gone but limp lingering. I enabled, she admitted, voice cracking over the mic. Out of fear. Loyalty. But fear's no excuse. Serenity, my sister, paid the price for our silence. The jury. A cross-section of flyover fortitude, teacher from Scranton, mechanic from Allentown, absorbed it stone-faced. Verdict came swift, guilty on all counts. 40 years.
No parole.
As cuffs clicked, Harlan locked eyes with me across the well. You destroyed us, he rasped.
No. Dad. You did.
I just turned on the lights. Outside. Press mobbed. MS. Voss. Thoughts on the sentence. Body autonomy, where do you stand? I paused on the courthouse steps. Mia's hand in mine. Lydia a step behind. Justice isn't revenge. It's reckoning. And America's got plenty more shadows to chase. The drive back to Boston was cathartic. I-95 unspooling under summer sun. Pit stops at roadside diners where locals nodded recognition. Saw you on 60 Minutes. Fame's double-edged. Doors opened, book deals.
TED invites.
But privacy shuttered, paparazzi tailing my runs. Trolls dissecting my hybrid ethics online. Elias's repatriation was clinical. A sterile suite in Bethesda where neural techs mapped us back. I watched from observation. My old body on the table. Tubes snaking like accusations. As the machine hummed, essences decoupling. He surfaced groggy. Serenity's features slack with disorientation. You, he croaked, spotting me through glass. The glitch that crashed the system. Upgrade. I corrected, as techs wheeled him away. My turn came next, probes pricking Carla's scalp. The pull like unraveling yarn. Waking in my original skin, taut, unscarred. 29 again, was vertigo. Mirror staring back the girl who'd trusted too fiercely. Loved too blindly. But Carla lingered. An echo in the muscle memory. A whisper in the choices. I kept her name on the byline, Serenity Voss Ruiz, hyphenate of hauntings. The wedding invite arrived that fall. Cream stock embossed gold. Preston and a new fiancé?
No, Marcus Sale.
Repatriated into a donor frame. Strong and silver-haired. Wedding his nurse in a quiet vineyard ceremony. Seats for all, the note read. Lydia's script. No empties.
We went, Mia.
Lydia in a borrowed dress. The beach was blustery. Waves lapping like applause. Guests a mix of survivors, whistleblowers. Families. The swapped and the spared. Marcus clasped my hand at the reception. His grip firm. Your voice freed mine. Thank you. To echoes. I toasted later. Under string lights strung between dunes. The group a constellation of the once lost. But controversy clung. As designed. Op-eds raged. Vigilante justice or necessary chaos? Protests at Neuralink HQ decried playing God, while bioethicists pondered consent in the age of uploads. My book hit shelves, swapped. A memoir of betrayal and becoming, sparking book club feuds and campus debates. Happy ending? Or cautionary biopic? Readers argued in the margins, as I had hoped. One night, post-reading in a Brooklyn indie, a heckler cornered me. You profited off pain. Where's the real justice? I met his glare. Carla's steel in Serenity's eyes. Justice isn't a check or a byline. It's the fight. And that's never over. Back in the hills, bay fog rolling in, I poured wine on the deck, Lydia crashing for the weekend. Think Dad's rotting in peace, she mused, feet up on the rail. Doubt it. But we're not. Stars pricked the velvet sky. America's restless pulse below. The hall had silenced once, now. It hummed with our reclaimed song, dark, tense, eternally debatable.